how soon should you be doing the deed together? When should you go for it?
This is great because I just got this story from Reddit, and the lady says, she says, from a woman, I went on a date with a guy on Saturday. We went out to eat. He was a real gentleman. He even had me walk closer to the building and him closer to the streets. Great conversation and chemistry. We have had plenty of chats before this about our lives, family, friends, etc. After the first date, he came to get sexually flirtatious. I'll admit I'm sexually attracted to him and do want to reciprocate, but I'm worried he'll ditch me the moment he gets what he wants. What should I be looking for? Is it normal for dudes to get really horny after a first date?
I think it's normal to get horny during a date. Well, I thought this was really an interesting question from a woman's point of view. What the most interesting thing was, she said, I'm worried he'll ditch me the moment he gets what he wants. I think a lot of men think this too. They think that women don't really want sex as much as men do, and that men want it, and they're, our whole programming biologically is kind of around men convincing women to do it in a way, And the dating thing is like, oh, how can I get her to do it, the deed? How can I get her in that situation where she'll want to do it? I actually think in today's world, I think people go for it much too quickly. In the pre-1960s, it was very hard to control the idea of having a baby. It was very hard to have birth control. And then they developed the pill and everything. And then the whole sexual revolution happened because women could do it at the same low cost as men could do it. And secretly, women have always wanted to do it as much as men. At least women of a certain age, let's say premenopausal. Once women get over a certain age, they may lose a lot of their sex drive, whereas men generally don't as much. But in the so-called reproductive years, women's drive is just as high as men's. And now with the pill and everything, women can do the deed and basically be sort of more like men in a sense, And so you have women seducing men. You have different scenarios that you didn't used to have. But I don't advise getting physical right away at all. I think it's a big mistake. Now, we're talking to men here, okay? So our advice is geared to men. It's not geared to women. And I'm glad you read this from a woman, Jonathan, because it helps us men have a certain point of view. But I do want to say that this advice that I'm giving is really for men, but it's really good for women too. So, you know how did you ever learn the 3-date rule? Like the third date is when you did the deed, basically. Did you ever hear that?
When I learned it, it was like the third date is when you go for the first kiss. Like that's how I
really?
Well, I learned a different third rule. So I certainly, I'm more a believer. As I got older and I realized how much intimacy everyone was actually having except for me, I was like, wait, everyone else is having first, second, third date intimacy. I'm the only one who's like waiting. Oh, wait 2 months, wait 6 weeks, wait for her to be ready, wait for the relationship. I was like, oh, I'm the only one who's waiting. And so I'm very aware of like the third date rule now.
Yeah. So I think it's okay. But since I've been doing a lot of work with men, we have a newsletter going out to 700,000 men. We've helped thousands, tens of thousands of men with sex and health issues and so forth. And what I've come to realize is the value of building a relationship the right way, a foundation for a solid relationship that can make the relationship amazingly good. If you're looking for connection, for what we could call romance, this feeling of wanting and being wanted, this a sustainable thing that's free of a lot of drama, so that if you did end up having to break up, nobody's going to key your car, nobody's going to get too upset, but you're really into each other, a mutual loving relationship. That's what I'm talking about here. So in that sense, if you're looking for that, it's not a good idea to go for the deed by the second or third date. It's much, much better to do that if you're just looking for that. If you're just looking for physical gratification, I have nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about men who want a relationship, a long-term relationship, that they love, that they are loved and they're wanted, and low drama and a lot of connection and romance. That's what I'm talking about. So if you want that, you don't want to give in to the urge to do the deed right away, even the second or third date. What you want to do is you want to engage in what I call oxytocin building behaviors. And so what I would do if I was dating today is I would be doing a lot of, and I would tell her, I want to build something with you potentially that's more than just something very casual. So I'd keep my underwear on. I would be very physical. I wouldn't actually do the deed, and I would tell her that, and I wouldn't succumb to the urge to do it, because in that moment you may get very desirous and you may want to just say, forget it, I'm just going to go for it. And she may feel that way too. But if you do this short of the act, couple times, sleeping together without doing it, basically, when you do it, it's much, much better, and it sets the tone for a much better long-term relationship that is free of drama and that has a lot of romance and connection. It takes a gutsy, courageous man to tell a woman that he wants to do this. But I think that women get a lot of their direction from men in the physical act in the bedroom. And I think that if men are assertive this way, the women will be fine with it. In fact, she'll say, my gosh, that's refreshing. A guy that doesn't want to just do it right away. This is a mature guy. I find him very attractive. He's got control over his desires and his emotions. That's attractive to me. So that's what I would do if I was looking for a long-term romantic connection with a woman. That's how I would do it in terms of when to actually. So maybe we'd be physical, but we wouldn't be doing the actual act till maybe the 5th or 6th date. So that's how I would answer that question. How would you answer that question?
Well, the first thing I pay attention to is that she said, I'm worried about if I do this, then I'll lose him. And what I noticed in my dating, this something is I was like, oh, if girls like you more, they make you wait longer. It's like the less they like you, the more they'll be like, oh, I don't see him as boyfriend material, I'll sleep with him on the first date. If I see him as boyfriend material, I'll make him wait. And that doesn't feel very good, right? You're like, oh, the more you like me, the more I have to wait, right? Like I get punished for you liking me or for being higher quality. So that's one of the things I noticed in her statement, and that's something that I thought was very interesting. And it's very common, right? That everyone has had a one-night stand, or it turned out to be a one-night stand, right? And you ask a lot of women, what's your experience? And they'll say a number, and then her friend will go, what about that guy? And she'll go, he doesn't count. So there's always the one-night stand or the vacation incident that doesn't count. So part of it is, what's interesting is what the guy is feeling in this situation is, oh, I have to wait and hide my sexuality because I'm boyfriend material. And that's one of the things that is unfortunately part of the price of the sexual revolution, is that we now know that women will sleep with everyone who slept with someone on the first date. Everyone I've ever met has slept at least one time with someone on a first date. But then they go, oh, but you're different. And the guy's like, well, I don't want to be different. Can't, right? Like, I don't want to. So what you're describing sounds very hard, right? And I know that women are attracted to fastidiousness, but there's also something that like...
Well, also, I'm making her wait. You see, it's a different scenario. I'm telling her, we're going to wait before we actually do it, and we're going to do it this way. So I don't feel like I'm waiting on her.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting way to take control of the situation, because unfortunately, as a guy, usually you're like, well, I'm out of control. How can I be in control, especially if this part of the relationship? Usually, like, the woman is in control until you sleep together, and then the man is in control. That's often what happens, right? Because the emotional balance shifts, or the oxytocin or the love balance shifts in the relationship. So it is one of those things where also, like, it almost sounds like she's like, why is he horny for me earlier? But there's no, that's a compliment, right? Like, oh, I'm so attracted to you that I want to be with you, right? So it is finding a balance. Part of it's like your age, part of it's your calibration. Like, as you enter, people in their 30s are very different than people in their 20s, right? People in their 30s are always on the first date. It's like, well, I've been on, like, I don't have time to wait. I'm closer and closer to death, or my eggs rotting, whatever the thing is. I have less time to work with. But I do think you're right that you have to approach dating, whatever you're going to do, strategically. You have to think, I have a plan. Because the worst plan you can have is, I'll figure it out, right? Like, that's how you end up in a situation that you don't want to be in. Whether it's, I don't have a condom with me, and now the girl's pregnant, right? Like, that's because you didn't plan. So whatever you're going to do, you have to start going, well, I have a strategy, or I know what I want. Do you want a relationship with this person or not? Do you want a short-term or long-term relationship? Does he see her as possible boyfriend-girlfriend material? One thing that was interesting to me, a lesson I learned in my 20s, was a friend of mine said, whenever I'm dating a girl and she says, let's be boyfriend-girlfriend, I go, great, what does boyfriend mean to you? And he said, every woman gives him a different answer. And I thought, that's crazy, until I started asking it. And what I discovered is that every single woman's definition of a boyfriend is different. Some women, it's like, I see you every weekend. Some women are like, I expect to talk to you every single day. I'm the only woman in your life. You don't talk to other women. Other women are like, yeah, I just see you twice a week and we just talk on occasionally, right? There's totally different definitions. So it's important to just talk about what you both actually want. What's interesting is that we're like so happy to jump into bed with people, we won't talk about it, right? It's like you don't want to talk about it, you just want to do it. And if you just start saying what you want, you'll find it makes it so much easier for the person to go, that's okay for me, that's not okay for me. It's like, listen, I see you as girlfriend material. I'm very attracted to you physically.
Well,
And
I'm
then
telling you, it's so much better when you build up that, if you want to look at it, anticipation, but it's so much better when you have that. It's an incredible improvement, and just try it. You know, if it takes a little bit of, you know, guts, courage, whatever, but you'll find that it's so much better. And the worst thing you can do is really do it too fast, too quickly, right away, too quickly. Or, like you said, feeling like you're controlled by the woman and she's leading you on, you know, for weeks or months. There's a book or several books for women, by women, telling women how they can control men by simply sort of getting them on the hook, you know, as if they were a fish, but
Yeah.
not giving in to them, as they call it, not letting them have their way with the woman for weeks, months. And I think that's terrible. And I'm not talking about being controlling. That's why I said, but my goal for people here is for you to have a loving connection, romantic, strong relationship where you really want someone and she really wants you. And it's sustainable and it's wonderful. And I find that if you avoid jumping into the sack too soon, and if you do what I'm talking about with these oxytocin behaviors, it'll change your entire world. Now, one of the other things that a lot of guys are doing is they're wearing a particular scent that women cannot get enough of on a guy. And this is one of our sponsors, Ideal Male Labs, and this is a scent that has animalic accords that are not available in any cologne in a department store or what you would get even if you pay $1,000. Ambergris, castoreum, civet, deer musk, and it's an incredible scent that women just love on a man. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to get anywhere else. And what they're doing is, if you click on the link in the description, they'll actually get you a full trial bottle so you can try it out. And then they'll put the actual cost on a card that you use only if you love it. If you don't love it, and you will, you can simply let them know, and they'll even pay the postage for you to send back the bottle. So I think this, they call it an attraction clone, is a fabulous way of going. I would suggest that you get your trial bottle now, and I thank Ideal Male Labs for sponsoring this video. See you on the next video.